Have you ever decided that you were finally going to become just 1% better, even made a solid plan for it, but somehow you never actually followed through? Then weeks pass, sometimes even months, and somehow you're still standing in the exact same place. This isn't laziness. There's a hidden system running inside your brain, and it's quietly keeping you stuck. And today, we're going to uncover 4 of those hidden systems, the ones you're probably following without even realizing it. And the last one? It's something so ordinary, it's been right in front of you the whole time, yet you've probably never paid attention to it. If you truly understand these 4 points, you might finally realize where you've been going wrong. It's 11 p.m., your laptop is open, and you've just rewritten your to-do list for the 5th time. It feels productive, but nothing got done yesterday, and nothing got done the day before either. That feeling has a name: the motion trap. It's when people keep researching, keep making lists, keep rewriting their plans, but never cross the line into the kind of action that actually changes their situation. Rewriting your to-do list, organizing your desk, these kinds of busy work create a fake emotional reward without any real risk, and little by little, they start replacing genuine progress. At the root of it is perfectionism. If the first attempt isn't flawless, it feels like failure. So people stay stuck in preparation mode instead of ever starting. As your self-control gets drained and your anxiety grows, the urge to delay becomes even stronger. Your brain wants the feeling that it's doing something, but at the same time, it wants to avoid the mental battle that comes with real action. So, subconsciously, it swaps low-risk motion in place of meaningful work. Motion brings temporary relief. Your brain mistakes that relief for productivity. The real task keeps getting pushed further away. And to cope with the anxiety it creates, you fall even deeper into motion. The real problem is that it creates nothing but the illusion of progress. The result? A growing pile of unfinished work. All of your emotional energy gets spent on pseudo-productive motion. And over time, your self-confidence and your trust in yourself slowly begin to disappear. Because it always feels like you're doing something, yet nothing actually changes. This is a more sophisticated form of avoidance, one that looks like effort from the outside. That's why procrastination researchers no longer see it as a time management problem. They see it as a problem of regulating negative emotions. The solution? Anytime you catch yourself planning or organizing, stop and ask, is this real progress? Or is this just motion that's helping me avoid the work that actually matters? Along with outcome goals, set specific process goals. Use implementation intentions. For example, I'll do this specific task at this specific time in this specific place. That way, your brain never gets the chance to negotiate. Make the action so small that it's smaller than your fear. Instead of planning an entire document, just write one sentence. The ultimate test of real action is simple. Did this step leave something in the real world that wasn't there before? If, by the end of today, you can't clearly say what you actually produced, you weren't taking action. You were just stuck in motion. But even this solution only works when you address not just the behavior, but also the emotional root that's stopping you from doing the real work. And let's say that starting tomorrow, you finally begin taking perfect action. Even then, there's still an invisible force that keeps pulling you back into becoming the same old version of yourself. Until you understand that force, consistency will remain almost impossible. Identity lag is the gap between your goals and the old self-image your subconscious is still holding on to. For example, you join a gym. You go for 3 days. Then, on the 4th day, you tell yourself, "This is just who I am," and you toss your gym bag into the corner. That one sentence you said to yourself, that's where the gap begins. Your mind is always looking for consistency between what you believe and how you behave. Instead of lifting your behavior to match your new goals, it pulls your behavior back down to match your old identity. The problem begins when you set goals that completely contradict the way you already see yourself. Sound a little confusing? Think about it like this. If you believe, "I'm just not a disciplined person," and then try to follow an extreme routine, your old identity and your new goal can't both be true at the same time. So, to eliminate that internal tension, your brain sabotages the new behavior, just to protect the identity that already feels familiar. Without realizing it, we recreate the same old patterns because they're what we know. Whenever a new behavior collides with your old identity, your brain would rather rationalize than sit with the discomfort. It tells you things like, "This just isn't me," or "I'll start for real next week." A new goal gives you an initial dopamine rush, but the moment it's time to follow through, the fear of failing activates avoidant behavior, and you run right back to the person you've always believed you were. The result is a quiet, chronic form of self-sabotage. You get incredibly close to success, and then, somehow, everything starts falling apart. Every failure strengthens that old identity even more, until you're convinced that real change just isn't possible for you. Here's what you need to understand. Failing to change isn't a lack of willpower. It's a form of loyalty to the person you've always been. The biggest insight is this: your identity shouldn't change after your behavior changes. It has to change with it, or even before it. Start by consciously updating the way you describe yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to become someone who exercises," say, "I'm someone who exercises." The first thing you have to change is the sentence you repeat about yourself, because your behavior will always fall back to the level of that sentence. Use cognitive dissonance intentionally. Small public commitments or personal investments can help your new behavior overpower your old identity. And if making progress feels uncomfortable, don't mistake that discomfort for a sign to stop. It's evidence that your identity is actually beginning to shift. Replacing self-judgment with self-compassion and understanding the cost of your old patterns is what slowly weakens their grip. But let's say you've done everything right up to this point. Then why do so many people still give up for no apparent reason, without ever realizing they were closer to success than they thought? Invisible threshold fear is the tendency to give up on a goal at the exact moment your consistent effort is about to produce results, because your brain can't sense the breakthrough that's right around the corner. It's like going to the gym for 2 months, seeing almost no visible changes, and quitting, even though the results were about to show up in the 3rd month. The problem begins when people expect progress to be linear. The harder you work, the faster you expect results. But in reality, most meaningful change is the result of compounding. Your effort keeps building beneath the surface, and nothing seems to change until you cross a critical threshold. Because there's no reassuring feedback during that invisible buildup, people often quit when they're actually closest to their breakthrough. The reason lies in your brain's reward system. Dopamine reinforces actions that produce fast, noticeable rewards. But when your hard work stays invisible for a long time, your brain has nothing to reward, and your motivation slowly starts to fade. Without any external sign of progress, your brain begins treating every obstacle as proof that you're failing. And dopamine isn't released only after you get a reward. It's also released when your brain expects a reward, which means your motivation depends on whether your brain can detect progress in the first place. Think of an ice cube. If you slowly heat it from 25 degrees Fahrenheit, nothing appears to change. Not until it reaches 32 degrees Fahrenheit, when it suddenly begins to melt. Your effort works the same way. When there's no visible signal that anything is happening, your brain assumes you're failing, and short-term impulses take over. The immediate result? You keep quitting, right before the payoff. Over time, that creates a new self-image. I never finish anything. The work itself isn't wasted, but because you stop before the return ever arrives, it never gets the chance to matter. It's important to understand the difference between no visible progress and no progress. Every so-called overnight success is actually the result of a long period of invisible accumulation that only becomes visible after crossing a critical threshold. Consistency, not intensity, is what carries you across that line. Instead of tracking outcomes, track your inputs. Before you start any meaningful goal, commit to a minimum runway, say 90 days, so your present-day emotions can't talk you into quitting halfway through. Tie your goal to a system or to your identity instead of an outcome. That removes the constant fear of either succeeding or failing. Coaching, external accountability, and creating small, visible milestones along the way can also keep your dopamine system engaged. The biggest lesson is this: the beginning of a breakthrough looks almost identical to the beginning of a dead end. The only thing that reveals the difference is time and consistent effort. If you can't feel your progress, measure it. Visible tracking creates the missing dopamine signal that keeps you going until you finally cross that invisible threshold. And now we come to the final point, the one that's so ordinary you see it every single day, yet you've probably never realized it's been quietly pulling you backward all along. Comparison sabotage is a self-defeating pattern where you slowly lose your sense of worth and motivation by measuring your life against everyone else's carefully curated one. You pick up your phone just for 10 seconds. Then suddenly, 40 minutes later, you realize you've been comparing your life to everyone else's, and now your mood is completely ruined. That journey from 10 seconds to 40 minutes, that's what this really looks like. According to one theory, people naturally compare themselves to others whenever there's no objective way to judge their own abilities. But in the age of social media, what was once an occasional tool has turned into an almost constant habit. Instead of improving our mental health, we're feeding it an endless stream of highlight reels that slowly wear it down. The reason goes back to our evolutionary wiring. Our brains evolved to understand status within small tribes, not to process thousands of carefully curated strangers every single day. Social media pushes success, beauty, and achievement to the surface. So we're constantly comparing ourselves to a distorted sample of reality, and that slowly erodes our self-esteem. But the damage isn't the same for everyone. It depends on how strong your self-esteem already is and how much control you feel you have over your own life. When you see someone who's doing better than you, your brain can go in one of two directions: assimilation, where their success motivates you, or contrast, where the gap between you and them feels like proof that you're not enough. Which path your brain chooses depends on whether their achievement feels attainable. For people with low self-esteem, upward comparison usually creates feelings of inadequacy and envy. Research also shows that people with lower self-esteem tend to ruminate more after upward comparisons, turning a brief moment of comparison into a spiral of self-criticism. The immediate result? Your ordinary life suddenly feels like it doesn't measure up, even though nothing in your reality has actually changed. Most people compare themselves to the very best in their field, and because losing hurts more than winning feels good, they end up in a constant emotional deficit. People start spending money, following diets, or chasing lifestyles just to compete with influencers, even when none of it aligns with their own goals. They compare their early process to someone else's finished product and convince themselves they're already behind. This pattern has been linked to anxiety and body dissatisfaction, especially among heavy social media users. And the worst part? When people feel bad, they often scroll even more to escape those feelings. But that same scrolling pulls them even deeper into the comparison spiral. It's important to understand that comparison itself isn't the enemy. The real problem is how constant it becomes and how one-sided it is. Because in reality, You're comparing your unfiltered, behind-the-scenes life to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel. And that's an unfair comparison from the very beginning. The first step is simply noticing the moment you start comparing yourself, because awareness is what breaks its automatic pull. Then ask yourself, is this comparison actually fair? Are you comparing your process to someone else's finished product? Spend less time mindlessly scrolling. Be more intentional with what you consume. Curate your feed on purpose. Unfollow the accounts that trigger envy instead of growth. The biggest shift happens when your self-worth stops depending on other people's results and starts being measured by your own standards. Remember this: if a comparison only makes you feel worse without giving you a single actionable step, it's not growth, it's self-punishment. The goal isn't to stop comparing altogether. The goal is to create a comparison that's fair, useful, and centered on your own progress. These 4 patterns, motion trap, identity lag, invisible threshold fear, and comparison sabotage, aren't 4 separate problems. They're 4 different faces of the same reality. Your brain is afraid of change, and it keeps finding new ways to hide that fear. The day you learn to recognize those patterns is the day real change finally begins.